Welcome back, Perfect Peeps, to AJ's Week in Web, where you can get all your web development news in 5 minutes or less. Facebook React doesn't have a lot of updates, but 16.11 dropped on October 22nd. There's a couple of nice fixes that come in this minor release, especially this mouse enter from firing twice. That started to become a pretty serious issue. So check out React 16.11 and update your packages accordingly. Next up, we have Angular. I usually don't cover the release candidates or anything beta, but this one's going to be a big deal, especially with the Ivy engine that's going to be released in Angular 9. So if you're not familiar with that, you can start to check out the update guide, and I do believe that they'll probably work through this release candidate pretty quickly through the month of November. It is supposed to completely drop 9.0 within the next couple of weeks. Angular also just announced on their blog a addition with Capacitor, so you can now do ngAdd schematic and add Capacitor to any of your Angular products. This comes out of the Ionic group, and Mike Hartington has the blog on the overview. Capacitor is pretty nice if you are familiar with Cordova and felt a lot of the pain points that came with Cordova. Capacitor is a very nice change that you definitely want to check into. Next up, Figma announced their first ever user conference. So this is going to be held in San Francisco, California. The cost is a little steep if you ask me, but I'm sure people are hot on Figma, so they're going to be willing to pay for this. Puppeteer was released as version 2.0.0. This adds a lot of changes with Chromium 79 that's coming up. It requires Node.js version 8 now. If you're not familiar with Puppeteer, it is an amazing way to utilize Node.js while calling up a Chromium dev browser that's headless, so you don't have to have anything visible, but you can utilize all of a browser's experience just through APIs. It's really neat, and actually one of the things that I found out recently when trying to debug some things on Gatsby, they actually build their showcase off of the Puppeteer, one of the version 1.0s. So I actually tried adding my site and it keeps failing, and I found out that several of them are. So I'm working on putting in a fix for the new Puppeteer and kind of how it interacts with the AWS Lambdas. Next up this week, we have Google's Webmaster. They released the speed report, which they've been talking about for quite some time. And then they announced and advocated for it at Google I/O 2019. It's a really nice way to see on your mobile pages kind of what's occurring. In their example here, there's a ton of moderate, and I think pages like this would love to see more green, but especially these red pages getting pulled out. I actually tried to run this on my site, and unfortunately I don't have enough mobile data. Most of my users are desktop based, so I'm curious if anyone has that, throw me a ping back. I'd love to show off someone's live page that they have with the mobile data. Azure DevOps released their roadmap update for 2019 quarter 4. Azure Boards has been updated. There's some neat features that are going into Microsoft Teams that you can interact directly with Azure Boards. That's going to be pretty sweet. The Azure repos are also being updated. The mobile-friendly UI, I think, is going to be the biggest feature that's coming out of this. Last but not least, something that's very cool if you ask me, is the announcement of Visual Studio Online Public Preview. So what's going to be happening here at Microsoft's Ignite conference, they're going to release a public preview for Visual Studio Online, which provides managed on-demand development environments that can be used for long-term projects. So the sweet part here is that you can stop using all of your IDEs, or you can continue to use them, and then when you're off exploring the world and you need to get on a device and you don't have a full-blown laptop, you'll be able to dive in and start coding remotely. I think it helps out, especially with the onboarding piece that they cover in this. I'll set this link in the description as well. Go check it out right now. Thanks so much for watching another episode of AJ's Week in Web.